Hey leaders, welcome to the LeadCulture Podcast, part of the Art of Leadership Network. I'm your host, Jenni Catron, CEO of the Foresight Group. We're a company dedicated to helping leaders develop thriving teams. Each week, I'll be your guide as we explore practical strategies to equip you with the tools you need to lead with clarity, confidence, and build unstoppable momentum in your organization. My mission is to be your trusted coach, empowering you to master the art of self-leadership so you'll learn to lead yourself well so you can lead others better. Each week, we take a deep dive on a leadership or a culture topic. You'll hear stories from amazing guests and leaders like you who are committed to leading well. So let's dive in and keep learning on this leadership journey together. Okay, friends, well, I'm back. I took a couple-month break from podcasting this summer, which is something I actually haven't done before. We've taken like a month off in December at the end of the year, maybe a couple weeks here or there, but by and large, we're really committed to the weekly cadence of the podcast. And so maybe you noticed that. Maybe you've just been actually too busy all summer that you haven't been paying attention to podcasts. But in any case, I'm back with all new episodes and am really excited for the season ahead. Now, pausing from the podcast was actually a bit of a hard decision for me. I don't like quitting things. Can any of you relate? I'm a creature of habit and routine. I love a good habit. I love a good routine. I love the power of the compounding impact that happens by consistent commitment. So a lot of the work that I do, particularly with leaders, with our culture framework, is about the compounding impact of consistency. And yet, sometimes you need a strategic pause. And so I have kind of always subscribed to this slow and steady wins the race. I'm not going to be the first one there, but I will get there and I might outlast you just because I will just slow and steady consistently stay after it. And so to quit something, even for a season, is really hard for me. I just internally wrestle with the idea of quitting something even for a season. I have trouble with that. And so it was a very intentional decision to pause the podcast for a couple months this year. But I once had a leader challenge me about the importance of protecting momentum. So this is some of the backstory of why maybe I sometimes don't want to stop things, because a leader once said to me, you have to protect momentum. And it honestly is still some of the best advice I've been given. And so again, whenever I consider quitting something or stopping something, even a strategic pause like we did with the podcast, I wrestle with what the consequences will be from stopping the momentum. You know how this is. Sometimes it's so hard to restart something that you're I don't want to stop it because the actual effort to restart it is harder. And so that was some of the things that are rattling around in my head as I was considering pausing the podcast for a bit of a season. And so as I was thinking about all of this, just some of my internal wrestling, it forced me to reflect on the power of the strategic pause, or an intentional disruption that helps you think differently about something. Have you ever had that kind of happen? Sometimes they're unexpected, right? The unintentional disruption that kind of halts you and you have to redirect things. Those things will often reset our trajectory, right? Might be a life circumstance, maybe tragically an illness or something that kind of redirects you. And what you find on the backside of that is that sometimes that redirection was really helpful or really necessary. So what I'm suggesting here is that we need to be intentional to create those strategic pauses that kind of help us create a bit of a reset. Again, routine and rhythms are great until they become rote, meaning that they're so routine that we're no longer really thinking about it or giving energy to it, right? We've gotten just into the habits and into the rhythms, and those habits and rhythms are no longer necessarily serving us well. We're just going through the motions. And so here we are. We're about to kick off a new season. All of us. It's the end of the summer, sadly, because I hate for summer to end. But here we are. The summer is ending and we're heading into the fall. And so for a lot of you, that means your organizations are going to be re-engaging key initiatives, right? It's like everybody's ramping up as we move into the fall, as you should be. But I'd love for you to consider how you're thinking differently about your life, your leadership, your team, and your objectives for the season ahead. How are you thinking differently as you gear up for the fall? Are you thinking differently about the season ahead? Have you taken a strategic pause to get some perspective and to think differently about what you're doing? Now, let's stop and clarify this for a minute. Because you may have taken a vacation this summer. In fact, I hope you did. I hope it was wonderful. I hope you did something amazing. But was it a strategic pause? So let's talk about what I mean here. For example, my extended family went on a vacation to the Black Hills, South Dakota this summer. So we totally did the touristy thing, and it was fantastic. I'd never been to the Black Hills, and so I was pretty excited to see some things I had never seen, a part of the country that I had not been to. And it was great. 4 families converged on a cabin that we rented, and it was awesome. And you can imagine all of the chaos of 4 families, like all in one space, but we loved it. We did all the amazing adventures that you can do: Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, Needles Highway, Devil's Tower, the Badlands, Wall Drug, and even the Corn Palace on our drive on the way back home to Wisconsin. And so if there was a touristy thing that we could do, we did it, and we had a blast. And there wasn't a spare moment. Like, we packed our week full of everything we possibly could. In fact, we even climbed, my husband and I love to hike. So we hiked to the top of one of the peaks, the highest peak in the Black Hills, because that's what the Catrons do, is like find the highest peak and make sure we've hiked it. So we even managed to squeeze that in one morning. But there wasn't a spare moment to think, to plan, to do anything else, but just be present. And when I say there wasn't a spare minute, I also was like joined at the hip with my 7-year-old niece, who is amazing and has a lot of words. Like, 7-year-old little girls have a lot of words. And so my time and energy was just devoted to being present with our family, doing all the fun things. So the point is that while that trip was wonderful, it was a pause from my regular work. It was not a strategic pause to think or to plan for the season ahead. And so that pause for me came earlier this summer. And so while I did the fun thing, it wasn't a strategic pause. And frankly, we got home from vacation and we got home on a Sunday afternoon, and Monday morning I had to go work with a client, and I was like, whoo, my introvert is on overload. Like, I recognized I had not given myself a little bit of a break between the chaos of the family adventure to going straight into full-on work mode when I got home. So I kind of missed even like a mini strategic pause there. But earlier this summer, I did do the strategic planning pause. Like, I took some time away. In fact, I hired a coach to spend 2 days with me, helping me map out the plan for the coming year. And so one of the big projects, you guys, that I've been working on, you might have heard me talk about it here or there, but I've been working on behind the scenes, is my next book, which I am so excited about and eager to tell you about. And very, very soon, we will have lots more information about the new book. But I needed to spend some time really thinking and planning. Like, this is a big project. It's a huge initiative, and I need to make sure we are setting ourselves up well for the launch of this book and how we can use it to help serve leaders and their teams. And so that strategic pause helped me to reflect on the work we're doing at Foresight and how we could even be more effective in the season ahead, right? I really needed to get the time, get the space to help me think differently about the season ahead. So that strategic pause completely challenged my routine, my habits, just our regular mode of operating as an organization, and helped us think differently how to best serve leaders and build unstoppable teams. And so that level of clarification, you guys, it has been a while since I was that energized. And honestly, I came back from that 2 days with my coach with so much work. right? Like the plan is enormous. And yet I was so energized because instead of being mired in all of the day-to-day busyness, I had my head up. I was thinking, I was planning, I was anticipating, I was dreaming. And the energy and the joy that came from that was so fulfilling. And so as you gear up for the season ahead, what strategic pauses have you taken this summer? That's my question for you. What strategic pauses have you taken this summer? I hope you've taken one for fun and relaxation. Like, absolutely, I hope you've done all the fun stuff, because that really is just as essential as the pause for thinking or planning. But have you taken a strategic pause to help you think, to plan, to work differently? In fact, what I'm learning more and more is that my hard driving, like never leaving a moment in my schedule open pace, right? Like that constant nonstop pace that I tend to run on is not only exhausting, it becomes unproductive or maybe counterproductive. Strategic pauses need to be a part of our rhythm. Like, it needs to be part of our disciplines as a leader. And in fact, I think you need strategic pauses daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. Like, you need them built into the rhythm of your work. And each one of those is a little different. But the point is that you can't keep going without a break, right? Like, you start to just run on fumes. How many of you have done that as a leader? Because I know that I have, right? I just go, and push. And you start to recognize how depleted you are, or how you've lost a sense of dreaming or planning for the future. And it's so essential for us to lead well. So I want to give you just a couple thoughts of, like, what could these rhythms look like? How can you build strategic pauses in with a sense of rhythm that they're helping you get that perspective that will help you lead better? So daily, for me, I need some quiet, reflective time to read, to pray, to journal. Like, I'm an introvert by nature. And so I need quiet time. Like, I don't need a lot of noise or commotion at the beginning of the day. I need to kind of get my dad would say, I need to get my attitude straight. And so I need that time. So most mornings I'm either walking or running. And then here's something I've noticed, you guys. I've recently had to stop listening to podcasts. So here I am on a podcast telling you to stop listening to podcasts. But I have stopped listening to podcasts in that early morning time because I found that I needed the quiet more. Like, I was just kind of adding to the noise. And so what I've found is that now if I'm going for an extended walk, then sometimes I'll do the first half of the walk just quiet, just, thinking, praying, reflecting. And then sometimes I might add a podcast in halfway through. You find the rhythm that works for you. But what I noticed is that I needed to actually be even more intentional with more quiet. So some of my best ideas and ahas come from those morning runs when I'm just giving myself space. What I'll also notice is that I'll be more intentional to think on behalf of one of our team members or maybe a leader that I'm working with. And then I'm just sending them a prompt or an idea, or that I'm praying for them, or some little nugget of hopefully encouragement to just also pour back into them. So it also even makes me more aware of others. So that daily space has become really, really valuable for me. On a weekly rhythm, first and foremost, I need to honor Sabbath. Now, I am the chief violator of Sabbath, but God instructs us to rest. And for me, it actually takes more discipline for me to not work than to just do this little project. Oh, I'll just squeeze this in, or I'll just get this one little thing done on my to-do list because it's top of mind. And it actually takes a lot of discipline for me to actually not work on Sabbath. Again, just time to honor Sabbath by resting and spending time with God. What I find is that time and time again, I actually feel more refreshed mentally and physically by devoting that time and energy and honoring Sabbath. So that weekly rhythm, it's a fight. It's a discipline for me. But I find it to be really, really important to my overall health as a leader. Also, on a weekly rhythm, I have not perfected this yet. So again, I am chief violator of everything I'm sharing with you. But maybe that's why I'm talking about it, because I'm finding it so valuable. And this is kind of an opportunity for me to commit to you that this is how we need to work and lead. As how what I'm finding is that I need to be more committed to these rhythms. And so if I'm honest with you, maybe you'll hold me accountable to them as well. So from a weekly rhythm, I've started blocking out one day for no meetings. Now, again, this is really hard to do. Doesn't work every week, especially if it's a travel week. But we're trying to block one day a week for no meetings. And again, by the nature of my work, it's very easy for my calendar to be jam-packed. It's just super easy for my calendar to be super full. And so I love connecting with leaders, right? So it's easy for me to say, yeah, I'll squeeze that in. Yeah, I'll do that. So it takes a lot of discipline and some strict boundaries from my EA to make sure that I keep some space on my calendar for thinking and planning, even weekly, right? Like even weekly, getting that space to kind of think ahead, to plan ahead. If leaders aren't getting ahead, we can't lead well, right? If we're not looking out on the horizon of what's coming, how can we lead our teams there? And so again, these rhythms are really, really important. And then quarterly and annually, you just need to carve out time for bigger picture planning. You need more space to think bigger, to dream bigger. And I believe hiring a coach to guide you through a process for analyzing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you could do it better is essential to help you think differently. Guys, that outside voice is so valuable. Like, I hired a coach to help me do this, and this is what we do for leaders, right? And so every great leader needs a coach. Everybody needs somebody helping look into their world and give them perspective that they can't see. You need someone who will ask good questions and push the boundaries of your thinking, like forcing you to just think differently. In that last session with my coach, he suggested an idea that I was initially inclined to think would not work. Like, I just was like, nah. As soon as he said it, I was like, I don't know about that. I don't think that'll work for us. Like, maybe that's worked for somebody else, but I don't know if that works for us. And so my instinct was to just dismiss it. But as I began to process it, I began to see the wisdom in it, and it forced me, so we adapted it, we changed it a little bit, but not I. Through his coaching and leadership, we came up with a better idea that was bigger than I had ever dreamed of, right? It just helped me see something that I couldn't see before. So leaders, as we lead our teams, we need to be committed to creating the space, the strategic pauses to lead different and lead better. Guys, our teams are counting on us. Like, they are desperate to know, where are we going? Why are we going there? They want to be inspired by something that is exciting and energizing. Like, we all want to be a part of really, really good work. And so we can't lead them there if we haven't created the time and the space, those strategic pauses that help us get that perspective. So if you haven't had that time yet this summer, it's not too late. Like, you can still do this. This is why I was like, we've got to talk about this right as we're kicking off kind of the relaunch of the podcast. We need to talk about this for a minute, because I want you to actually, literally, I want you to pull out your calendar right now. So you've probably got your phone available to you. I want you to pull out your calendar, and I want you to look for a block of time in the next week or two where you can take, if it's 2 hours, if it's a half day, if it's a full day, like, find some time that you're going to take a strategic pause. You're going to shut everything else off, and you're going to think and dream about the season ahead. And you're going to challenge yourself to think differently, to think better, to anticipate what's coming and how you can inspire and engage and lead your team to what is next for you and your organization. And if you need a coach to help facilitate it, one of our Foresight coaches would love to help you do this. You can just email me at Jenni@getforesight.com, Jenni @getforesight, GET4SIGHT.com, and I'll connect you to one of our coaches. They are amazing. They love helping leaders think better. They love helping ask good questions and help challenge your thinking and just spur us to some of those big, better ideas that might be on the horizon. So if we can help you with that work, we would love to do it. But either way, pull out that calendar, carve out some time, and take the strategic pause before you jump into the busy season ahead. So friends, I hope that gave you something to think about today. I'd love to hear your stories. Like if you have taken a strategic pause and it's been really beneficial, I'd love to hear about it. Again, you can just email me, Jenni@getforesight.com, and tell us how you've paused. Maybe it was the fun pause, maybe it was the strategic pause, but I'd love to hear about it and how that's helped you lead better. So again, let me know how we can best serve you. If you're enjoying the podcast, would you share it with a friend? Would you share it with your team? Listen together or take some notes together about what you're learning as leaders. And the more you share it, the more you give us those ratings and reviews, the more it helps us share it with others. So I really, really do appreciate that. I know every podcast asks you to do it. And there's a reason why we do, because it helps us with just all of the things that go into making a podcast happen. The more listeners we have, the more valuable that is to us and helps us know that it's making a difference and making an impact. So leave us a review, give us a 5-star rating, and share it with a friend. That means so, so, so much. And then if we can help you with more leadership resources, make sure you're signed up for my Insights newsletter. That's my weekly newsletter. It goes out every Wednesday morning. And I'm always sharing a leadership thought there. If we've got new things coming, that's the first place we talk about it, especially all the book stuff that's coming up. That's the first place you're going to hear about it. And it's just a great way to stay connected to what we're doing here at Foresight and the different resources we have to serve you well. So you can go to getforesight.com, GET4SIGHT.com, and a little pop-up will show up for you to sign up for our Insight newsletter. And I would love for you to connect with us there. All right, leaders, thanks for listening today. Keep leading well this week and get that strategic pause scheduled.